My name is Anvitha. I am a rising junior in the School of Foreign Service, studying international economics and minoring in philosophy, and I'm from Dallas, Texas. I learned about the Psaros Center and the FinPolicy track through social media, and I decided to join because I was interning at the U.S. Department of the Treasury at the time and was looking at a lot of the financial policy coming out of the U.S. government, and I was wondering how that impacts the private sector. And I thought this was an incredible opportunity to hear both sides of that and spend a week just learning from experts and asking any questions I had about regulation and how that impacts the financial sector. I think the whole week was so incredibly informative. I learned so much from so many people. But what kind of sticks with me a few months after is our visit to the White House and then as well the Federal Reserve. Starting with the week with learning from different parts of the executive agency, so the National Security Council, as well as the Center for or Council on Economic Advisors, and then the Office of Management and Budget allowed me to kind of see the macroeconomic and geopolitical trends that affect policy coming out of the White House, and then how that later in the week we learned how that translates to the financial sector. But then afterwards, learning from the Fed, hearing what their challenges are, and kind of how they make their mandates was really interesting. I think it's obviously very topical to learn about what the Fed is doing, and then naturally how that impacts the financial markets and the moves that investors are making. I'm not 100% sure what I want to do when I graduate, but I do know that the FinPolicy track was an exceptionally rare way to learn about what you want to do when you graduate, just because hearing from so many people and so many different fields and experts in so many different areas, and not just their personal career trajectory, but a really raw and honest conversation about what they do on the day to day. And I think having that small group atmosphere where you can kind of ask any question you want to whoever you want. And so I think being able to bounce back from different students in the program and kind of getting a really deep dive into what people do was really interesting and definitely informed kind of the way I see looking for jobs in the future, just because I've gained so much knowledge about what the different options are. Also, I've been able to keep in contact with a few of the speakers, so it's been really cool to kind of extend the information that I've learned from the trek to maybe more of a personal conversation with people. And so I think it's really been incredible to kind of introducing me to things that I probably wouldn't encounter, especially being a student in the School Foreign Service. So being able to kind of meet new people, hear new perspectives, and kind of what that translates it like into the workforce was really interesting. I think it's really incredible that they open the program to anyone across all five undergraduate schools at Georgetown, just because I think financial policy impacts anything. So even if you're someone who's really interested in a specific niche topic of like national security, for example, the impacts of financial regulation and the private sector, specifically the financial sector, is so important to learn about. And I think especially because it's such an interdisciplinary center and area, I think it's brought me a lot more depth to what I study as an economics student. A lot of the things that I study are Fed mandates or macroeconomic trends, but seeing the implications of that and seeing how kind of the financial policy feeds into the private sector and then how the private sector is able to influence financial policy has been really insightful. And for my Georgetown experience more generally, I think having an administrative academic kind of center has been really interesting to work with, just because I think the rigor and type of work that I'm able to access through the Psaros Center might be different from a student organization, for example. So I think it kind of adds a lot of depth to what I study and also a broad range of how different factors might impact what I learn in the classroom.